Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about the whole concept of DBD players not being able to accept losses, way more so than like any other game. It's that whole 50% win rate target for a functional MMR system that most games have. It seems like it's just a completely alien concept to a DBD player. They just can't accept that they're actually supposed to lose half of their games. And it's because kind of like, the game's imbalance, it's become something that we're just sort of accustomed to. We either get 4Ks or we always escape. And when anything changes that, it's just super hard for players of this game in particular to accept the norm, basically. Now, for comparison to the norm, I watched a lot of StarCraft professionals. I really like watching StarCraft pros. I just think it's very, I think people that are really good at RTSs are just like super fun to watch. So I do watch a lot of StarCraft professionals, and even the ones at the absolute highest tippy top MMR, the absolute best players in the world. And we're not just saying like, you put in your stream title, I'm the best Zerg player. Like you can visibly see their winnings. You can see that they are in fact the best in the world. So it's not like DBD or anything like that. There is verified proof of them being the best. So technically their ego should be the highest of anyone because they actually have the stats to back it up. And yet, you'll notice when you watch them, they'll lose like 1 out of 2 or 3 of their games. They're losing probably a lot more than your average DBD streamer, right? And yet, they don't really bitch when they lose. They don't like when they lose. They don't go, oh my god, Archon mode, Zerg with friends, OP, when they lose. They just go, all right, fuck, GG. I should have played better or whatever. And that's that. They accept the 50% win rate target at the highest MMR because they're going against other equally skilled opponents. And that's just the norm. That's how it is in most games. People just accept that they're going to win about half the time. Yet in Dead by Daylight, it is so much worse. People cannot accept losses in this game. And rather than just make fun of people for just making fun of people for just, not being able to take it, I want to actually go into why that's the case. Like the whole psychology behind it of why people are unable to accept losses. And I think kind of what it boils down to is it's a matter of fairness, right? Because in StarCraft, it's pretty much a symmetrical game. You have basically equal opportunity as your opponents, and so the only thing that should really determine the win is just simply who plays better. Another example, if you're in like Counter-Strike, and it's just like a 1v1 left, you both have ops, you both have the same gun, you have the same health, doesn't matter, it's an op, and then the other guy shoots you. There's really not much to blame there other than latency maybe or something like that. But at the end of the day, in all these scenarios, pretty much the only thing you can say when you lose is, fuck, that guy just outplayed me. And that's it. And it's a lot easier for people to accept these losses when they're fair. That's the crux of the argument, I think. People cannot accept losses when they feel it's an unjust loss, when they feel like it's unfair. And boy, does Dead by Daylight bring that up in spades, because DBD, because it's asymmetrical, somehow simultaneously on both sides it can be unfair at the same time. And that's why it's so hard for anybody to accept a loss, because somehow both sides are actually right in it being unfair. And it's because of how the MMR system works, tracking escapes and stuff like that. And just like think about like a scenario. You could have the best survivor in the world, top MMR, literally 8 trillion MMR. He goes to save a teammate against a Bubba who's kind of proxy camping. The teammate's about to die. The only other option is just simply let the teammate die. He's got borrowed time, so he knows he can save him in time. And he does. He makes a save. Teammate gets away for free. And, well, not for free. But then, that teammate goes down. And now he just gets face camped on the hook until he dies. Now, it's actually fair for that person to say, this is unfair. How the hell am I supposed to win in this scenario with a face camping Bubba? I can't do anything. And he's right. It's unfair. And then on the flip side, the Bubba can actually go, how am I supposed to win against this team? This is unfair. And the Bubba can actually also be right at the same time, because the way the devs look at the game as a 1v1v1v1v1 and not basically just sort of like a 1v4, you can actually have scenarios where both sides are both losing and winning simultaneously and it being unfair and fair at the same time. It's so hard to regulate the chaos of Dead by Daylight that you can almost always justify a loss with it being unfair in some way. Now, DBD players do this way worse than other games, even if the game is fair or unfair. People in DBD are terrible at admitting mistakes. They're really, really bad at it. It's always the game's fault. Now, I would say half the time it is the game's fault because the game is not balanced. It's super bullshit. Somehow, again, for both sides. You can have an individual survivor experience being completely unwinnable and terrible at the same time that the killer's experience is completely unwinnable and terrible. And so both sides feel like, wow, this is bullshit. How am I losing? This is so dumb. And they're both right somehow. So that's, I think, the crux of the main argument there. It's that the perceived unfairness of the game on both sides makes it so people cannot accept losses. And so I think the best way that we need to try to address this as a community is people need to start accepting that this game is unbalanced garbage. Like, we've been saying this since the game came out. This game is wildly unbalanced. This is why no one wants to take competitive stuff, or not no one, but most people don't want to take the competitive scene seriously. No one wants MMR, or very few people want MMR. It's like, this is just, game has too much ridiculous shit in it for you to ever try to perceive the game as fair. So just stop. Just stop thinking that it's like, or stop complaining at least that it's ridiculously unfair. And we're all guilty of this. You know, I'll load in on a map on Red Forest with Clown and see them spawn on 3 separate totems of Lethal Pursuer, and one guy spawns on my Rune as well. It's like, well, it's fucking bullshit. Yeah, it is. It is really stupid. But then on the flip side, another survivor might spawn 5 feet away from a Bubba for some reason and then get face cam till he dies. And then that's also stupid. And again, both sides are actually right. So it's incredible how the 1v1 experience with the survivor interaction with the killer can be bullshit for the survivor, and yet at the same time, the game can be virtually unwinnable for the killer. So in that scenario, there are losers on both sides. And I think that's really the main central point of the whole argument. It's that it can be unfair for both sides at the same time, and people just simply cannot accept unfair losses. And that's why there's so much complaints, despite the fact that they might have above a 50% win rate. Like, you look at like a killer, and they will be winning still most of their games, maybe even 75% of their games, you're getting, you know, a 3K or above. They're still winning, and yet they might complain the most, and sometimes it's not even unjustified because the complaints they're making still make sense. And it's so weird how that's actually able to be true, but I think that's the main reason why people can't accept losses so much. The game is unfair for both sides, and people can't accept unfair losses. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So it's an interesting topic. Again, it's a whole separate video I can make about people not, you know, admitting mistakes, because a lot of the time, I'd say a good half the time, there's always something you could have done better, even on both sides. And that's just how the game works. And this community is really, really bad with admitting mistakes. But again, that's a separate video. I just wanted to go over to the whole losing thing. So yeah, that's it. Hope it was an interesting talking point. But that is all I got. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.